Hello. 1, 2, 1, 2. We are the Lake Town Spy Network. How are you doing, Comic-Con? Quick, go tell the Master of Lake Town that the Hobbit panel is about to begin. Swift boy, run! Hello. If I could only go back in time and show this to my 13-year-old self. Welcome to today's panel on Hobbit, Battle of 5 Armies, and a celebration of Peter Jackson's Middle-earth, The Battle for 6 movies. My name is Stephen Colbert, and if you are anything like me, you don't just love these stories, you treasure the world of J.R.R. Tolkien. Let me take you to a time long ago, an earlier age, the time of Clinton, the dark days of dial-up internet. A rumor came to us that director Peter Jackson would be making an adaptation of the trilogy. At the time, many of us knew him only from his movie, Heavenly Creatures. And as great as that movie is, I wasn't sure there was room for hysterical, murderous teenage girls in Middle-earth. Other than, of course, Eowyn. I was worried that somehow he would take away my treasure, my hoard of precious Middle-earth stories. It was a very possessive, obsessive, very dragon-y feeling. So I found and followed everything I could about the progress of these movies. I remember seeing the first stills from the filming of Helm's Deep. I looked at every casting announcement. I scoured the work of John Howe and Alan Lee. I read the online debates about fantasy versus fairy tales. And I began to have hope. Not just hope the movies would be good. I was given hope that finally people might not roll their eyes when I started talking about Middle-earth. That my head full of facts from Fëanor to Faramir might suddenly have some social value. That someone might say to me, "Hey, Stephen, you know a lot about Tolkien. Can you explain something to me?" And I would say, "Yes. Oh, God, yes, I will." And then the movies broke upon the world, and to steal a line from C.S. Lewis, here were beauties that pierced like swords or burned like cold iron. Here were movies that would break your heart. Good beyond hope. And rather than taking away our treasure, Peter and Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens and Richard Taylor and Grant Major and Dan Hanna and the cast and the crew and Weta Digital and the land and the people of New Zealand itself added to our stories, complemented our imagination. The only problem, as I saw it, was that at a total running time of 11.5 hours, they were too damn short. I feel this must be how Orlando Bloom feels all the time. We wanted more. And though we had to wait nearly a decade, our patience was rewarded with the cast and creative team we love and trust, and we were invited back to Hobbiton, to Rivendell, across the misty mountains cold, through water, wood, and hill, by reed and willow, to finally come face to face with the beautiful but dangerous silver-tongued villain of The Hobbit, the Lake Town Spy. I just hope I fulfilled Professor Tolkien's vision. Well, welcome. I have a question to start off for everyone on stage right now. Do you get that everywhere you go at this point? Or just everywhere in San Diego? Peter, how are you?
Hey.
Yes.
I'm very good, thank you, Stephen. Thank you very much for coming.
Well, on behalf of myself and everyone here and all the fans around the world over the last, how many years now since the first movie came out? 13?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Something like that, yeah.
Thank you very much for making these movies.
You're very welcome, thank you. I do have to send apologies from Martin and Ian and Richard, who would all love to be here, but Martin and Richard are on stage in London and unable to get away. And no, yeah, Ian's shooting a movie. That's right. Yes, that's what's happening, isn't it? Yes, but they do send their love, and I'm sure you'll see them again sometime on some other project.
So, Peter, are you done with the last movie yet?
No, we're still working. We're sort of, I mean, the creation of the movie never really stops, and so what we're doing at the moment, I mean, it's editing, but it's a lot more than editing because we've got battle sequences to do and a lot of other, you know, rather intricate things, and so we're doing motion capture for that, or we're doing animation, you know, in the case of some of the big creatures, and so I'm supervising that, then that goes onto the motion capture stage, then I go on with a virtual camera and I film it, which I absolutely love doing. So I'm still shooting the movie in essence. They haven't stopped me filming it yet.
Well, if you're looking to shoot a big battle, I think we have 6,000 extras who might be able to join.
I know, they would be good too, wouldn't they? They'd know what to do.
Well, let me ask you something about how the movies are made. As you said, you're doing a lot of this motion capture and going into the digital environment for the camera to capture things. The people who've worked together on stage, is this the first time some of you have met here at Comic-Con, even though you've done the movie together?
Yes. Some of us, yeah.
Yeah. Yes? Have any of you ever been in scenes together and never met before? Yes?
Yeah.
Kate?
Kate and Kate, yeah.
We worked together, and I didn't meet Kate until well after I'd finished working with her.
Really?
It used to be my run of things.
It was great.
Wow. Did either of you complain that the other person was stealing focus?
Yeah, she took
all
it.
the
Just
time.
come out of her trailer, and you know.
You had that big long.
I kept eating all the snacks, and I was in a way all the time. Yeah, it's kind of amazing.
Peter, when you started back in 1995 when you first started about doing these movies?
Yeah, 95 or 96, I think, sometime like that.
So by the time this film is released, once it's released, and it'll still be running in 2015, you will have spent 20 years thinking about this world. Did you imagine that this was going to take a generation of your life? And is that a happy thing for me to say?
Well, it's a commitment, isn't it, really? It's a commitment. But no, and it's a commitment I have really enjoyed taking. It's been a, you know, you never know what's going to happen next. I mean, the very first thing that we ever pitched to Miramax back in 95, was to make The Hobbit as a single movie, and if that was successful, we'd do 2 Lord of the Rings movies. That was the pitch. That was what we, well, sort of, things went a bit differently, didn't they? But
yes. So wait, it was originally pitched to be 2 movies?
Yeah, well, The Hobbit was going to be, we were going to shoot The Hobbit first as 1 movie, and then if that was successful, we'd do Lord of the Rings back-to-back 2 movies, and that was the pitch to Miramax. That was the original pitch. And so that was, everything just changes, it's organic. So it's not, it would be really boring if it was 20 years where you had it all laid out, you knew exactly what was going to happen, and you were just ticking the boxes, but it's certainly, it's an adventure. Every step of it's an adventure.
I do want to complain to you again, as I have before, that since The Hobbit, which was 1 book, became 3 movies, technically you owe us 6 more movies for the trilogy.
Sure, if Warners could find a way to do that, they would certainly be very happy.
Elijah?
Yes, sir.
Hello. Why don't
you're here doing this? This is amazing.
It is. It is.
I realize that.
Why don't you age? And Peter, did you know you are casting the immortal?
No, maybe I have a painting in my attic that's aging for me.
Yes. It kind of goes. The same thing also goes for the elves. I mean, Orlando and Kate. I don't know what creams they're putting down on you, but darling, I want some.
That's a good idea. We should come out with one, shouldn't we? An elven face cream.
I do have, as a fan, I do have a question for the elves, people who played elves in the movie. So, since elves are immortal,
You call us elves. We like it.
you like being
You don't have
elves?
to distinguish between people who played elves and people who are elves.
You might be an elf. Do elves, do you have to think differently, or are you thinking as a human? Do you have to put yourself in the mind of an immortal when you do this? Do you have pity on the rest of your cast members when you're in character?
I was typecast.
Yes.
No, they're incredibly generous. Look, I was just grateful to get a job in this one. I thought my time was over in Middle Earth. So.
Yeah, you and me both.
Are elves generous, do you mean? Or have Peter been generous to bring you back? What do you mean?
A bit of both.
Okay.
No, but I do think Galadriel's incredibly generous. Yeah, it was a big stretch for me.
The trilogy of The Hobbit was announced. My understanding is that the tone of the movies will sort of progress toward the tone of Lord of the Rings movies to sort of match up when you watch them all together. How would you say the tone has changed from the first movie, from An Unexpected Journey to Desolation of Smaug? How's that extended in this movie?
Well, I think it's extended the way that you would imagine it would extend seeing the first two. It's a progression, and it's certainly, I just about everybody in this room knows what's going to happen at the end of The Hobbit, never mind. You know, there's a lot of sadness and tragedy, and, you know, which is good. It's always great when you can kill off some main characters. I'll tell you what, as a filmmaker, thank God, like when you can finally kill somebody, because it gives you a chance to do something, you know, hopefully it's powerful and emotional, and otherwise you're a little bit, I mean, so anyway, we do get to kill a few of them this time around, so it's good. And I think you'll feel it getting quite, yeah, well, I mean, dark isn't the word. I mean, these are fun movies. Fun, you know, even, I mean, the Rings movies were fun. I don't think, they're just, you know, but yes, it's not as comical as the first Hobbit movie for sure, and they're progressively getting towards the tone of the Fellowship of the Ring. Do you know, Elijah was 18 years old when we did Fellowship, by the way. We're trying to work that out.
And he's still 18 years old. Philip, as one of the screenwriters, when having the luxury of telling the story over 3 movies instead of 1, do you wish you had been able to include more things in the first 2 movies, I mean, in the first 3 movies? If you had this sort of pace of storytelling that you have in The Hobbit as opposed to Lord of the Rings, are there things that you guys wish you could have put in the first 3 movies that you had to take out just for time?
Yeah, you mean in Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, sure.
Say, Tom,
I think of them as just a continuation. Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course, the Old Forest, definitely, and Tom.
Did you think about Tom Bombadil at all? Did you consider about it?
We did. Pete had some very funny ideas, including seeing his hat while they were on the road. Do you remember that? We actually wrote that into the script. No, that will have to be for another generation of filmmakers, I suspect.
Mm-hmm. Did you have anyone in mind for the cast? For Bombadil?
No, but can I tell you that we did do a wish list, I remember, and it's sitting in a box somewhere because Pete keeps everything. And on that wish list was a young Australian actress for Galadriel called Kate Blanchett. And that was our absolute number one.
On young.
No, this is true. And then...
But I had Kate in a wish list in a box somewhere.
No, for Galadriel. No, that was our first list of possible people for casting.
I see, right.
Well, Ben, you're playing the ultimate heavies. You're playing the ultimate heavies in this movie.
Sorry?
You're playing the ultimate heavies in this movie. You're playing Sauron and you're playing the dragon.
Yeah.
How would you characterize the difference between these 2 bad guys?
One's a dragon.
All right. Someone have a pen. I'd like to write that down.
Take this down. You need to know this. One's a dragon, and one's an all-seeing, non-corporal entity of evil.
Yes.
Did I get away with it? No one screamed, rubbish! No, it's, yeah, one's real, one's made of something that's vulnerable, and one seems to be born out of everything that's evil and difficult to pin down and actually kill.
Is there any benefit to doing the motion capture that you hadn't experienced before? As an actor, is it something that motion capture gives you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You don't get with standard
You're
makeup.
free to just make a complete fool of yourself and lose yourself in your imagination and not, you don't have to hit. It's much harder what these guys did with green screen, acting opposite ping pong balls and marks of tape and pretending that's your reality in the whole costume with continuity, taking into account camera moves. I was just throwing myself around a carpeted floor like a lunatic.
And Andy, did you have any advice for him? Did you have any advice for Benedict on how to do motion capture?
Just to make sure you don't get carpet burns, really.
Yeah, put the Velcro in the right place.
Exactly, yeah. Let the Benedict fit. Thank you. They love you, Benedict.
Graham, as Dwalin.
Yes.
As Dwalin. Do you think that the dwarves get enough credit in this movie for being heroes? Because they're not the most obviously sexy creatures in the world.
Well, obviously, to the female dwarves, we're very, very sexy.
Are there female dwarves?
There are. Well, I've often thought that the entire journey is seeking a female dwarf. And boy, it takes us a long time. But no, it's nice to be the only representative of my race here today. I feel a little outnumbered by my elven compatriots, but yeah, no, it's been an extraordinary experience being a dwarf when you're 6'3". So that alone was 2.5 years I'll never forget.
Luke? Can you actually shoot a bow? Did you know how to do that before you took the job?
Yes, yeah.
Where'd you learn? Were you a Boy Scout?
No, I did it in Butlins. No one know what that is. It's a very working class holiday resort, and I went with my family as kids, and that's what we used to do. We used to archery. But no, I mean when I got to New Zealand, I really did it properly then, and used a very, very big bow that was much bigger than me, and arrows that were very, very large, and yeah, I could probably do it. We did have actually do a day. It's a shame because I think Aidan Turner remembers the day when we were all shooting, because the dwarves used to shoot from the hip and I used to shoot from the face and whatever. And we had to aim at these little action men that they put on the wall, and I did it. I got it. I beat them.
Kate, as an elf, we haven't had a chance to see you fight. That's one of the things that the elves do better than anyone else. They're the ninjas of Middle-earth. Are we going to be able to see you fight this time? Do you have a weapon?
Well, I actually, in the high school production of The Hobbit, which you did, I actually played the bard. So I was sort of prepared for a bit of fighting. But as an elf, you have to wear, because you're very tall, I'm relatively tall, but not that tall, I had to wear these sort of hugely high sort of disco glam boots, which were... So it's a little bit tricky to even walk.
So underneath that gown, you've got disco heels on.
Hmm?
You've got disco heels on under the gown.
Not very, just for height.
We do get to see Galadriel losing it a little bit in this next movie. It's good.
It's a bit judgmental, yeah. I lose my shit, is that what you're about to say?
Yeah.
Elven shit.
She does.
I'm sure it sparkles.
She does. She gets to kick Sauron's ass a little in this next film, so...
Philippa, have you recovered from me smoking you in the Tolkien trivia contest in August of 2010? Have you stopped therapy from me crushing you?
No, but it was very touching because your very beautiful wife came up afterwards and said, I think this is the greatest night of his life.
Peter challenged the trivia contest with Philippa, and I won. And I won, and it was. And as I said to you, you don't understand. I'm an athlete who's been training his entire life for a race he never knew was coming.
I think it might have been a little closer than you remember, though.
We could remount the challenge for charity.
Do you remember what you won on? What was the winning answer? Do you remember?
No, but I do remember when Stephen Fry said, "Oh, you've really got the crowd on your side." It's when you asked me who Goldberry was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you actually asked me what Goldberry was, not who Goldberry was.
Oh, did I? I think I did.
Yeah, so you were just trying to trip me up with the old River Daughter answer.
You know what was really funny? Because it was me and Stephen, and we were asking each other questions. So I think nobody else in the room knew whether we were getting them right or wrong.
Well, that was in the final round.
Yeah.
Stephen Fry and I designed questions for the two of you to start with, and then you guys ended up just, when it all got a little bit crazy at the end, you guys just started firing really hard ones at each other. And none of us really knew, yeah, that's right.
Well, the clincher for me was when you asked me Goldberry and I put my head down on the table and everyone thought I didn't know what the answer was. But I was just trying to think of the first line of the poem. And so I raised my head and said, "Oh, slender as a willow wand, oh, clearer than clear water, oh, peed by the little pool, fair river daughter, oh, springtime and summertime and spring again after, oh, wind by the waterfall and the leaves' laughter." You didn't have to inside that. I think probably...
Normally winners are very modest, aren't they?
I'll never have this opportunity again. Now, I've noticed that there is a difference in class in elfendom. And Orlando, your father does not want you to date down. Perhaps the two of you could address this. Is there a social message in this movie?
Yes, I'm a low-class elf. Is that what you want me to say?
You are. Yes, you're a trash elf.
Low-class, trashy elf. But my shit still sparkles.
Was that on your resume? Is that how you got the gig?
That was on their wish list. We've heard Evangeline Lilly's shit sparkles. We like her as an elf.
Well, Peter, I think based on the time, I think maybe we've... where are we?
We're okay. We could do
all right.
Another 5 minutes or 2 minutes of questions.
All right.
Have you run out of questions?
Any of the actors here, I'd like to ask about your experience in New Zealand. You know, Lee, for instance, had you been to New Zealand before?
No, I'd never been before, but I absolutely made the most of it. I love being outside and hiking and stuff, and you can't find a better place for that than New Zealand. Like, awesome hikes. Really, really fun.
I had a feeling when we went down there again. Peter invited us down very kindly. My wife and my two boys and I were extras, and we spent 2 weeks down there. I had a strong feeling that I should never leave New Zealand. Man, it really calls to you and says, are you as raw as this mountain is? Could you carve out a life? Plus, no bears.
That's right. No snakes.
Did anybody do any adventure travel down there? Because there are a lot of ways to kill yourself not being killed by an animal in New Zealand. Did anybody take advantage of any of this sort of adventure?
I went in the heli. I can say this now because we're out of contract, but I did go up a glacier while I was down there.
And you didn't tell anyone
they
because
helicoptered us up to the middle of the Fox Glacier and then left us there for a few hours.
Brilliant.
And we went through ice caves. Yeah, and then me and Aidan jumped out of an aeroplane as well at one point.
Yeah, it's the sort of country you can do a lot of that jumping. I jumped out of things, jumped off things. If anything could get thrown out of or off, I would pretty much do.
So Orlando, did you move down there for any period of time?
Like 3 years.
After the movie was over, I understood that you stayed for a while.
I've sort of come and gone a bit, but it's funny actually, because there was an email exchange between me and Dom and Elijah just 2 days ago talking about getting residency in New Zealand. Dom was like, we really started applying for residency,
didn't we?
We actually thought, yeah. Yeah.
Orly throws himself off anything and with a bungee on. It's unbelievable.
Did any of you come to the stories of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit for the first time through the films? And did it make you then go back to the books, or did you say, to hell with it, I'm never going to read them? Elijah, did you go back and read the books?
I actually haven't. Truth be told, I still haven't read the books.
Never?
I know what I'm getting you for Christmas.
Listen, I've said this before.
Get out of here.
I'm okay. Okay.
Elijah, do you know how to read?
I do.
You've been in show business since you were a child.
I read The Hobbit when I was a child, and it was a big, big book for me. And I had The Lord of the Rings on my shelf, and it was one of those things that was very daunting, and was kind of always there, and I thought, I'll get to that one day. And then these movies came about, and I felt like I was living it and experienced it in such a profoundly deep way that I never really consulted the books. I imagine it's something that I will go back to, but I don't know. It was such an experience over the course of such a long period of time.
I loved reading Lord of the Rings so much when I was young that when I got about 25 pages to the end of Return of the King, I took my book and I reverently closed it and I said, I will never read those pages because this story must go on.
Oh.
And I have never read those pages.
Really? Oh, that's beautiful.
Ever.
Wow.
No, Evangeline is a serious geek, a serious Tolkien geek.
No, I love Tolkien, but I don't know squat. Like, I can't remember the names, the places, so I fail every Tolkien geek test. Don't try. But I love him.
Oh, he's so disappointed.
No, I'm not disappointed at all. Actually, you've never been more attractive.